All right, I think that's everybody. So I don't know. I'm not really super prepared for this. So it's just ad hoc, general, casual, add-on developer, or just general development related panel. If we want to just go around and everybody introduce yourselves, so everybody's familiar with who is who. Start with Adrian.
Hi there. Why are we starting with me?
Because you're in the upper left-hand corner of my screen, and your name starts with
It's
A.
fair. I'm an Expression Engine developer from way back. I have done some add-on work. I don't have any add-ons in Devotee at the moment, but I've done a lot of bespoke add-on work at various points, and I just do a lot of Expression Engine stuff in general. And also, Brian asked me to be on this panel at the last minute, so.
It wasn't that last minute. It was like
That's true. It was several days ago. Anyway, hi everyone.
I'm just going in order of what I see in my screen. I don't know if it's the same order for you guys, but I'm next. Brian Litzinger. I'm the guy behind Bold Minded add-ons. Doing Expression Engine for 9 or 10 years. I currently actually work at Jamf, JAMF.com. I don't do client work anymore. So I work just on their website. Been there for 4 years. Yeah, it's me. Doug.
I am Doug Black. I am the founder of Triple Nerd Score and been involved in EE for 4 or 5 years-ish. Have done a couple add-ons that you can find on the EE store, and then, a ton of custom add-on work for, clients for all the random stuff they may need. So excited to be here, y'all.
TJ.
I'm TJ Draper. I've been using Expression Engine since around like 1.3 or 1.4 when the film company I was at, trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life, certainly not development, had a website developed in Expression Engine, a lot of custom PHP, and then that developer went away, and I was the most nerdy techie person at the film company, and so I got stuck with the Expression Engine website. That's how I got into Expression Engine. So it was a little after P Machine, but not a lot. So that's my, I belong here creds, I guess. Yeah, I make an add-on. I make several add-ons, but the primary one would be Ansel. That's the one that sells the most and that I promote the most. It is for image manipulation, image cropping, that sort of thing. It's a field type for Expression Engine. Buzzingpixel.com if you want to go buy it. I keep talking about Ansel 3, and I keep not doing Ansel 3. So I'm currently a developer at HappyCog, doing lots of websites over there. I was asked to be on the panel. I figured y'all be tired of seeing my face by now because I feel like I've been on these panels every year since 2017, but here we are. So hopefully I'll have some constructive input.
Mr. Johnson.
Hey, so I'm Matt Johnson. I work for EE Harbor / Expression Engine. I've been working there for probably 6 years. And basically, Expression Engine from then on. So that was my introduction to Expression Engine. At the time, we owned, I think, 2 add-ons. And we've grown since then. So, yeah, a little bit.
Roger.
Okay, hi everybody. I'm Roger. I go by the handle Meat Paste on the Slack and stuff. I've been working with EE for about 6 years now, at a company called Triad in the UK. So I've done loads of upgrades from version 1 to 2 to 5. We probably have about 50 or 60 Expression Engine sites. And I've got 4 add-ons on the store right now, which are nice little simple cheap things. So yeah, thanks for the invite, Brian.
You're welcome. Mr. Smith.
I'm Mr. Smith. I'm Travis Smith. I started and run a business called Hop Studios that has a focuses mostly on client work, but has a large and growing collection of add-ons. I see most of the add-ons that we do as sort of utility add-ons. They're kind of smaller add-ons that solve a specific problem, often that we've run into with a client. I think there's about 15 or 20 of them on the site right now. And Hop Studio is about 8 people. So that's kind of that's our size and scale and the kind of things that we do. And it's really nice to be on this panel with other developers. I always learn a lot. So it's nice to be here.
Awesome. All right, so I got a little spreadsheet here of some questions that people submitted. Start with the first one. Oliver from IC360 asked, the general question is, what is the mood in the camp? I guess the detailed question is, what is the general mood of add-on development in terms of how they feel about opportunities available to to earn a living from add-on development? Anybody want to take that?
You and TJ are the people who earn a living from add-on development in this. I mean,
and take it a little bit. Like, I don't earn a living from development. I make side income, for better or worse. I think I could get a lot more money from it if I were to devote more time to it, but probably not enough to live on. So my primary gig, of course, is as a developer for client sites at HappyCog. With that said, I'm actually really excited about, I think the Expression Engine ecosystem is headed to good places, especially after everything we've seen the last couple of days. Like, I feel really pumped about the stuff that we've seen. Most of that stuff is not developer facing yet. There's a few things for add-ons, but mostly it's like your add-on's going to keep working. You might have to update for your, for the visual part of your add-on, but mostly it's about energizing the community. And I'm excited about that. I expect to see an uptick in sales. And I expect to work on Ansel 3 in the next 10 or 15 years and maybe see an uptick in sales from that as well. So I think it will continue to be a very strong and viable place for me to be in terms of bolstering my income, for sure. Absolutely.
I want to second what TJ said. Yeah, it's never been I've never expected to earn a living from it. I've always called it my profitable hobby. Work on them on the side, make a little extra cash. If it turned into something full-time, then great. I never really, put that much effort into it. Historically, I mean, there's only one add-on developer that I know of that's earned a living off of it, and 2 of their add-ons eventually basically became core. And then now with the announcement of Wigwam basically becoming core, the 3rd add-ons becoming core. So I think the general sense I get is if you make an add-on that is such crucial requirement for all installations, then yeah, you'll make enough sales, maybe make a living off of it. Like a lot of add-ons are pretty specific, pretty niche, I guess. They solve a very specific problem. If you happen to make an add-on that's going to just completely change how people build sites and make enough sales, and yeah, that could potentially definitely be a thing.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me that for any add-on developer for Expression Engine or any sort of core software platform, you always run the risk that if your add-on is particularly useful and obvious and widely necessary, at some point you're going to be subsumed into the core of the product. That's, success has that risk. So I think that if Expression Engine has a healthy developer community, it's going to have a range of people who are from occasional dabblers to people who are making a living off of it. But the people who are making a living off of it have to realize that, if they're that good and they're making such a popular add-on, there's a chance that might become part of the product as the product grows, right? That's part of the life cycle. So.
Got a few questions. Anybody else want to expand on that or any ideas? No. All right.
Yeah, in my case, it's never been like I used to have way back in the day a few public add-ons, but I don't really have any sense of sales figures
Segue into that, sales figures. Josh asked a question: have we seen sales trend up or down over the last year? I'm gonna be honest. I don't follow my trends as closely as I should.
I was just about to say the same thing. I don't really follow the trends. I have seen a lot of emails come through on mine lately that I've like over the last, I'd say 4 weeks, a few more than usual. But generally, I don't follow the trends.
It's been pretty steady for me. I think a year or two ago, I did see a bit of a dip. How do I say this? I think it might have gone down 30 to 40% a couple years ago, and I think it's probably back up to maybe 75% of what my all-time like consistent sales were like a few years ago when E2 was like super popular. So there was a little bit of a dip. Things have come back up a little bit and kind of evened out a little bit without getting into specifics.
I think we probably have noticed a bit of a dip with the software just changing hands a couple of times and going open source and now landing with EE Harbor. I know that from my point of view, I've got quite a lot of features stacked up on roadmaps for my add-ons, and I've been a bit cautious. I don't want to invest the time in writing them in case there's significant changes and I have to do it all again. So as soon as we've got that beta version of 6, I'm definitely going to kind of get my head down and get new versions of everything out. And hopefully that's going to sort of reignite the scene a bit as well.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Yeah, I've actually, this time last year, I advertised a new add-on and I still haven't released it yet. And then when I heard EE6 was coming out, I kind of pumped the brakes a little bit. Didn't want to sink in too much development to it. So once I get my hands on a more final version of E6, then I'll kind of take another look at it.
I saw a
I
question.
think everybody's
from me
real
about-
excited about EE6.
Yeah.
Yep. No, I definitely like what I've seen so far. Matt, what do you got?
I saw a question for me about EE Harbor plugins, and I honestly don't really know. I don't really see the sales, so I can't speak much to it.
I would say our sales have been a little bit slower over the past. I don't know about the whole year. Like if you go back to last October, maybe it's about the same. But certainly this has been a bit of a crazy year. I feel like we've had more support requests. I feel like people are using our add-ons more in a way, or that I feel like there's a lot of activity, but I wouldn't say that that necessarily corresponds to sales.
Jason Boothman. Oh crap! You guys get in my way. Jason Boothman asked, for fun, could each of you give us a plug for one add-on you think we should check out, yours or someone else's?
Bot.
You're on a panel, TJ.
That's
That's
the whole
kind of
point.
the thing about panels.
That's right. That's right. Wow.
Too logical, Adrian.
A real broadside.
I want to give a shout out to actually Roger and his caching add-on. Even though technically we might have competing things, his solution is pretty unique and interesting. And I like his approach they took on that. So definitely look for the caching thing. Look at his stuff.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Yep. I invited you here, by the way, because you're kind of like a little newer to the EE scene. Like a lot of us have been around for a while, so I kind of want a newer perspective.
I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna plug one free and one paid add-on. Free add-on, Stash is still one of my go-tos on every EE installation. Even now that EE has better partials, Stash is still really a Swiss Army knife that I find impossible to live without. Paid add-ons, I want to plug TJ's Ansel because I'm not updating it. It's really a fantastic add-on, and if more people hear about it, possibly we'll get him to update it some more.
Oh, it's definitely coming, and it just continues to work. So
Yeah, Ansel, if you have to do anything with images in EE, Ansel is brilliant, and I feel like it doesn't get enough plugs.
I honestly, I know that Brian is on this panel, but it has nothing to do with me recommending that you check out blocks. I was just looking through some of my EE code bases, like what add-ons, and like I don't know how I would build a site without blocks now at this point, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
So blocks is my recommendation.
Well, if I can go on the record for, I just used this the other day, and it completely revolutionized a client's attitude toward me. So I'm grateful for that. W Cloner. By, I believe it's Willowlight. Yeah. Just to be able to quick clone an entry was like life-changing for them. So, and that means it's life-changing for me. So thank you.
One that comes up for me quite a lot would be structure. Just gives the users so much flexibility and ease of use, like just dragging pages around the nav, and they've got that one place they can go to visually find the content that they want to work with as well in the site tree. So yeah, that's probably been the most significant one that I've worked with.
Cool.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, from our point of view, we use Freeform on so many sites. It's always been one that I've wondered, is that functionality going to get sucked into EE at some point, or but really for any site that is building forms, it's a really common starting place. And if I was going to mention one of my own, it would be Hop Privateer, which changes your site to pirate speak on International Pirate Day. I built it. I love it. It's never caught on, and I don't know why. So, yeah.
Market.
It is September 19th. We just missed it. So,
Shucks.
next year.
Next year. All right, Andy. He's asking, what would we like to see from the EE team, either in the product itself or as a company?
Hey, Brian.
It's a relationship with developers.
Can I address one thing that was related? We're just talking about, and then we can go to that question. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'm sorry, I copied and pasted the question, but it was Mike Lorman asked, or he says, I don't think add-on devs are advertising their add-ons enough. And my thing is that advertising costs money, and I don't quite know where to advertise to get into, to get in front of the developers' eyes, because most add-ons are products for developers, not end users of Expression Engine.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very tricky proposition, and I'm not a marketer, so I don't quite know how to figure that out.
Yeah.
I just wanted to address that. I saw it go by in the chat. So sorry, Brian.
I actually bought some ads back on, what was it called? Actually on Devotee and then EE Insider.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is kind of a dead site. Now, but I bought ads on those a few years ago. I did not see any uptick in sales. So I basically haven't focused on advertising since then. I think TJ kind of hit the nail on the head. It's a different market. We're not trying to reach like the content editors or the content writers or the people who pay to have the sites built. We're trying to reach developers that are trying to find tools to meet their solutions. So it's a definitely much smaller community to advertise to.
I think, if I'm looking for an add-on for a project, there's probably 3 places. I'll go to Devotee, I'll go to Expression Engine, check on GitHub. And if there's something that fits the problem I'm trying to solve, then I'm just going for the one that looks like it's got the most up-to-date support or the best reviews. So I don't really feel like advertising would help out if other developers are in a similar mindset to that.
All right, so on to Andy's question. What would we like to see from the EE team, either in the products itself or the company and its relationship with developers?
More regular info. They've been very heads down for the last several months, and it's been kind of frustrating. We love you, Matt and Jace and Tom. Like, we do, but...
Yeah, that's fair. I know that something that we were trying to be very intentional about is to add more give more updates and everything. But I think just the turnaround for EE6 kind of threw that off. I think that you'll see an increase in updates as that gets released. So that's definitely been on our mind and our intention. So
Makes sense.
I know I can't, like, I'm not on the expression engine development team, but like as a developer who has this problem, like I find it very difficult to balance, hey, I need to communicate with my project manager and I really need to be heads down working on this thing. So I feel that pain
Yeah.
like very much.
What I would like to see from the product, I guess like an improved entry API, I guess. There's been a lot of like, you can save an entry, but it's difficult to save an entry with attached relationships or categories. Like it's not a consistent API, I guess. That'd be really cool to see. I think I had a list of things. Andy, maybe I'll send that list to you in the future. But as a developer, like seeing improvements under the hood. The step towards PSR compliance. Thank you so much. That's a huge thing. And yeah, just modernizing the code base.
Also, better add-on documentation, because I was actually just looking some stuff up the other day and very frustrated by the lack of documentation about some of the things in the EE docs. So I'm hoping they'll be able to accomplish that after they get 6 out the door as well.
And these are actually all things that I as well experience and have been frustrated with. So it's definitely on our radar. Before we took on Expression Engine, I had all those same opinions, and I'm happy that we're moving towards PSR, that I can have a little bit more standard with my code, and the documentation I know is going to have a big rehaul with 6, but I've also always seen that as well. So.
Yeah, and just to follow on that, like, yes, definitely, yes to everything Brian said, especially PSR compliance, and I know that that's been coming slowly, but like, just being in the modern PHP ecosystem in the past, and for good reasons that I've talked about throughout the last couple of days, where it comes from an older era of PHP, Expression Engine and CodeIgniter and all that, but to really bring Expression Engine into modern PHP would be a really, really good thing. We've seen moves toward that, so I want to see that the gas pressed on that one, just to really see the way, the direction that PHP community is moving, because it has felt like sometimes there's almost been resistance to, oh, we don't like the way the PHP community is moving, and I've had that too. But whether you like it or not, like, that's where PHP is going and has gone in many cases, and we need to just get there. And I know I'm speaking much more toward the very back end, like stuff that a lot of our listeners probably don't care about. So I'll be a little more quiet about that now, but very, very much in support of adopting as much community standards, PHP community standards, as possible.
I agree.
It's not just like for the sake of modernizing, it's because the new developer coming into Expression Engine, like, that's the stuff they're going to expect to see.
Yep.
So if they can, the whole composer thing, I see both sides of the argument, but like when a new dev comes in and they don't see composer, it's like they're going to be like, I don't know what to do with this. It's like, that's just kind of like where things are going.
Yeah, it's almost a non-starter if you've been doing any PHP development. You're like, no composer.
I think it's more important for add-ons than the core.
Mm.
Like, I personally, I think that's where the issue is. Add-ons use same packages; they conflict with each other sometimes. The core can be packaged up however it wants, but I think using Composer in the add-on for the add-on folder is probably the area I would focus on. Intent at.
Yep. Yeah, something we did when we were acquiring add-ons was we were very intentional about modernizing those code bases, at least to a reasonable degree. So we did do PSR on all of those, and that was just for sanity. At the time, it was a lot of different developers doing things a lot of different ways, and so running that through like a PSR formatter was really, it allowed us to work a lot faster on it. And we've been hesitant to do that on the core. I know that's something we want to do, but we've seen things break before where EE is using like all caps or something. Oh, yep, my timer.
Yeah, you almost have to do that file by file in the core, and that is a chore. And I think you can definitely, like with modern tooling, exclude like whole folders and things from that and say, this is the legacy. It's going to be the way it is. All modern code will be written, all new code will be written in the modern way, that sort of thing. Again, I'll try to keep it brief, but like one thing that's been a huge boost to my productivity is enabling tooling based on PSR standards. And then I don't have to worry so much about the format of that code anymore. Like if it's wrong, it's either going to yell at me or it's going to auto format. And it's a huge boost to productivity.
I think one thing I'd like to see is like proper support for subscription-based add-ons in the shop. I don't feel like one-off payments is a sustainable business model if you're taking the add-ons very seriously, because typically a website for me is like a 5 to 6 year life cycle at least. And if someone's paying you sort of whatever your add-on price is on day one, it's not really practical to continue supporting them for 5 years for that one-off cost.
Right. Matt, kind of put you on the spot a little bit. Does the current store have that built in?
I'm asking that right now. I don't think it does. I know that's something we talked about, and that's actually I think that's a large part of why. Yeah, so Tom just said that we are adding it. And that's a large part why EE Harbor add-ons aren't there. One, because it's a lot of work to move all of our add-ons there when it's not like a lot of immediate gain, although we want it all to be centralized. And then also our model is a subscription model. So you get updates up to a certain point, and then if you want more updates, you have to pay for that. So
right.
Yeah, that is something that we're adding into the store.
Yeah, and this kind of goes. I think the thing in the chat here, I agree, but it's hard to sell to a small client. I assume that's subscription. Talking about subscription, and it sounds like the work that I'm doing may not have needed to be done. Part of the reason I haven't started on Ansel 3 is it's going to be subscription based, and I'm actually building some buzzingpixel.com infrastructure for that. So that's part of like I'm revealing behind the curtain here a little bit, and it's been very hard to find time to work on that, so it's slow going. But the idea would be that you don't have to pay that subscription. You get 1 year when you buy it, and then the subscription re-ups for a year, and your updates basically stop at the 1 year mark. So if your website's working and everything's fine and you don't care about the updates or there's no security updates, that sort of thing, then you're going to keep on working with the version that you've got. That's the idea. So hopefully it can still increase developer revenue, but for those who just can't go on with the subscription, I think that's the model that we see the most often in this space, and I like the model. So,
and that's something that I know we ran into with EE Harbor. We'd have people message us for a support request and say like, "Here's my license code," and we go to look it up, and it's like a decade old. It's like, all right, you paid us $30 10 years ago, and now we're going to spend hours on this. It just doesn't make sense for like as a business model. So, yeah.
Yuri said in the chat, the other CMS, and we've been encouraged to just say Craft. So Craft has optional renewal payment for add-ons. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah.
One thing to keep in mind with that is things like the GDPR regulation, where you've actually got, if you're dealing with personal data, you've got a sort of legal obligation to make sure that your software is up to date.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, be careful.
GDPR.
That's one reason why we actually pulled Freeform from a lot of websites and started using the Expression Engine built-in Simple Form instead, just so that we offloaded that storage. So we were no longer keeping the personal data on the websites.
Right. Bree is asking about, crap, hit the wrong button. There's my chat. What was your question? Where's it at? Several things that come up about add-on docs. It'd be nice to have QA on add-ons posted on the EE site. Bree, do you want to expand upon that? So I'm trying to read through the chat. Unfortunately, we don't have any CartThrive representatives here. But I feel your pain. I don't know, documentation's hard. Developers don't like to write documentation.
I'm making excuses, but documentation is very hard. And
Yeah.
there's been times when I've had to update my docs, and I'm like, I swore that was in those docs. What? And it was just in my head because I wrote it. And I try to document as I go, but like, you know, best intentions, and you know.
Right. The thing too about like, I don't know what's not up to date about CartThrive's documentation, but majority of add-ons, I mean, the syntax and the tags are probably pretty identical to what they were back in EE2. I mean, they might add new parameters or add new tags, but over time, like at least what I've seen, like things don't change that much. Template language is pretty consistent and whatnot.
Just address some conversations going on in the chat. Like the bigger problem that I've discovered, I rarely, like, except for those one or two occasions where somebody emailed and said, I know this feature exists, but it's not in your docs. It's usually the other way around. It is somebody submits a support request and then I submit a link to the docs going, here you go. It's like they didn't look in my docs. And you know, I know that's hard because I do that too. Like as a user, I'm like, oh, I didn't even see that in the docs. So I'm not placing blame. I'm just saying often the problem is people didn't find it or look for it in the docs.
Yeah, I've had scenarios where somebody asks about, they're using a tag and they're asking to do something. And I'm like, oh, just use this parameter. And they're like, what parameter? It's not documented. I'm like, oh crap, I added that parameter to the tag. It's been around forever, but I forgot to update documentation. So, Bree, I feel your pain, and I'm sorry. I experienced the same thing with other add-ons. So, hey, we got Brad wanting to join.
Mike, yes, I agree that more examples is, and I think this is a difference sometimes between the way people operate. Like some people prefer to read about the docs, and some people prefer examples. I definitely work best when somebody actually has code that I can copy and paste. So that is. That I fully agree. So for those who don't, more examples of how to use the things in your code are a good thing.
Mr. Boothman is asking, one request I would have for add-on developers is rather than saying it is supported in EE4 Plus to list out each version is available for EE4, EE5, etc. This tells us as developers that, chat's scrolling away from me, that you are still actively checking on the add-on. That makes sense. Even though it may be fully compatible with E6. It's hard to tell if it is abandonware if it doesn't specifically say so.
Still have this problem on buzzingpixel.com. All my add-ons that are on buzzingpixel.com work with the current version of Expression Engine, but some of them still say 3 because we were so excited when 3 came after so long a time that we put compatible with EE3. So yeah, I still have that in places on my site and I need to fix it. And I'm working on a new site, so it's been like, got to go find the places where that needs fixed, and I just haven't.
I want to jump up into this sheet of questions that were asked. Somebody asked, I'm not sure who their name was, they left their name out, asked about single sign-on solutions. If any of us set up a single sign-on add-on for EE using LDAP, do we have any suggestions?
LDAP is.
I've done.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So I've done LDAP integration on an intranet project before, and we used the Composer package to do it. So I've also done a 2FA logon for Expression Engine. So I'm guessing like the knowledge from those two you could kind of mash together, because it's not that scary to use a composer package in an Expression Engine add-on. And if you grab a decent, well-supported LDAP library from Packagist, then yeah, it wouldn't be too tough actually.
Yeah, there is an add-on on Devotee called Mini Orange or something. Mini Orange SAML. We actually use it on jamf.com to integrate with Okta. It worked great. It actually works with a lot of third-party single sign-on providers. So I would recommend checking that out. There's a lot of code that is required for that add-on to work. So like if somebody were to tackle writing something like that new from scratch, it's going to be basing it off of what I've seen on that add-on, it's going to take some time. If you're trying to write an add-on that, works with many different services other than like your one specific service that you use.
Yeah, we've done a bit of single sign-on. We did some for a client a while ago, and then more recently we did, and that was a SAML 2.0 single sign-on. I looked at the simple, Simple Orange. That one looks really good. We didn't end up going with that, but I think that one has a pro feature that includes some of the things we needed. But yeah, there are options out there.
If we're done with that, there was a comment from Jason Boothman a few minutes back about a launch channel in Slack for people to share site launches or add-on updates and stuff. I used to always get really interested in like an RSS feed of latest whatevers, and if there was a way to just hook a Slack channel up to anyone who updates an update for the add-ons in the EE store, I know that I would check that out ridiculously often, just seeing like, what somebody has has incremented a version point or something like that. That same feed could also show up in the control panel of EE sites. Like you've got the blog news feed from Expression Engine, but if you also had an add-on, like what add-ons have been updated, that would be super simple to add and would sort of get the word out about new add-ons. And I think that'd be great. It's a good idea, Jason.
Did you say RSS feed? Nobody uses those anymore.
I cry myself to sleep every night,
Well, we have back in the day, what's his name? EE Garage. They started their own format for an RSS feed for add-on updates. And a lot of people kind of adopted that. And I actually still have RSS feeds for my add-ons that you can subscribe to. But yeah, that'd be cool if EE gets its own internal store, then the add-on, yeah, you get notified of updates. That'd be great.
To Chris in the chat, I was kind of joking. I mean, RSS is still alive and well. It's mostly just a back-end technology now. It's people can applications and things consume it more than readers for end users.
True, very true.
Podcasting is huge, and it's all RSS driven.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Elite add-on refused.
What was that, Brian?
I'm just reading Matt Kinberg's comment. Did the double E's, triple E actually. Matt, I don't know. You kind of failed on the EE usage there.
There's also a question from Ron Hickson about how we handle technical support for the add-ons. I'm curious about the answer to that. Actually, I'd love to know what the preferred method for handling it is.
Where was that question at? What's the
Jump in. I tried a few different over the years. And initially it was email. That was awful. And then I tried I don't remember. There was a couple of popular ones and I can't even bring them to mind now. And I wound up, when I rolled out my most recent iteration of my site, which is now many years old, I built in some very basic functionality where you post comments. You do an initial issue and then you post comments, and I get notified and they get notified and as comments come in, and you can set certain statuses on it. In progress, accepted, won't fix. I don't think I did won't fix. I think it was nicer than that, but stuff like that. I wound up just rolling my own. It's not necessarily something I recommend, but it was fine and it works for me. So
I find that a lot of people get hold of me on the Slack channel. They'll just send me a DM on Slack, and that works really well. And surprisingly, a lot of people will just also hand over a super user log on to their Expression Engine install, and then you can just dive in and kind of help
it
them
happens
to fix it.
for sure.
So,
I don't recommend it.
Yeah, that's been kind of the case since the very earliest days of EE, just because it's how the community grew up. Is it necessarily the best thing? Maybe not, but it's a really good bunch of people too overall. So
yeah, Jason says, "Hey, we trust you guys." And the issue for me is more, I don't want kind of responsibility. I don't want the credentials to leak. I don't want that stuff in my database. I don't want it. Don't give it to me. If they give it to me, I'll use it and it's fine. And maybe if it's a super user, I can get in there and actually do stuff, but I don't want it. And I usually don't even want to get into your site. I want to replicate it on my end in my local dev environment and fix it there. It's usually not that helpful. So don't post your super admin credentials on my support, please.
Yeah.
I took TJ's, my support is custom built. It's just using channels and comments. I don't mind it when people hit me up in Slack, but if I can tell it's going to be a more in-depth conversation, I'm like, go make a ticket. Because I got a lot of emails, a lot of Slack messages, Twitter things. I need everything in one spot. But I do, when you submit a ticket, I do actually keep that username and password around. But as soon as the ticket's closed, it gets deleted from the database. So I wrote that in pretty early on to keep that out of the database, because I do not want that information hanging around at all either.
No, it's a liability for sure. And I did not build that functionality in, so they submit it in the comment text box thing, and I'd have to go delete it manually, and it's not great, and I don't want it. Freshdesk, yes, was one of the ones that I tried. That was in the comments. Sorry. And as far as somebody
enjoy, so we all kind of enjoy making a bit of cash out of the add-ons. So if anybody kind of misused that trust, that would disappear pretty quickly. So, we're a good bunch, I suppose.
Yeah, somebody mentioned, I think it's scrolled up now with the chat, but somebody mentioned that a lot of people will do Slack, and I don't mind if somebody pings me in Slack. I mean, as long as they're open to be either A, it gets lost, I missed it completely and totally because I was on vacation or I was busy that day or something, or what have you. As long as they're realizing that this is ephemeral and maybe I should just go make a ticket if he doesn't respond. Because I have had people get a little upset with me. I pinged you in Slack. I'm like, I totally missed it. I'm sorry. Because Slack, I love Slack and it's great. And if I'm there, I'll help you if I can. But it's very ephemeral and it is for immediate conversation, and that's great. But that's what it's for.
Yeah, regarding those people sending logins, we also try not to really rely on that. But occasionally, when we do need that, I think Tom posted this in the chat, but we use one-time secret, which is just a way that they can send it to us. We open it once, and then you can't open it twice. That way, if that ever got leaked, that link, it just wouldn't work. So.
Okay. I got maybe a loaded question here coming towards Matt. So somebody submitted a question. What was that?
I had a feeling it might have been.
So somebody asked a question through the forum. They tried to get this through yesterday, the E6 roundtable. They would like to know the perspective of the EE team about how e-commerce is to be handled in the future. Right now, they're relying on third-party entities to provide third commerce solutions. We don't have anything native aside from built-in commerce add-on that's just pretty basic. So no robust native solutions. What's this idea, stance, future on that? I guess I'm kind of summarizing this question.
Yeah, so I gotta be honest. This is a little bit more of a Tom answer. I know he has a lot of thoughts around that. It might be worth like pulling him in there even. Oh, and I lost video. Cool. But yeah, if Tom's available, he could answer that well. There we go.
Hey, you can get through me all right?
Yep.
Sweet.
Hi, Tom.
Hey, so I don't want to say too much, but I will say that we are actively talking with FosterMade. That's the company that owns CartThrob and Expresso Store. And we're talking specifically about how to elevate what we call the four main products for e-commerce and express engine, being Charge, Expresso Store, and CartThrob. So the you guys in the comments here. No, that's a real shiplap wall. But yeah, so we are actively talking with them about that. Just how can we best elevate those four products? Similarly, I do know that FosterMade has some pretty large updates that they've already performed, specifically to CartThrob, modernizing the code base, things like that, and some other ones in the pipe. So I'll leave it at that for now.
My understanding is that they're sunsetting Expresso Store, but they might have changed their mind on that.
Let's just leave it. To be very clear, currently that is the official stance. Yes, we'll just leave it there.
Which actually really sucks for me because I've got a client on it that
mysterious.
can't put Heartthrob. So I like mysteries.
Let's hit the mystery end head on, right? There's a line where out of respect for FosterMade, if you will, collectively, I won't cross. And part of that line is also, I've had a little bit of a conversation with them pre-conference to say, hey, can we say anything? And it's kind of like, yes, let's just say we're trying to elevate it. But beyond there, there's this whole field of where, how far we could run in this conversation, right? So out of respect for them, yes, I am going to be very guarded on what I say. But we can say that we are discussing with them, how can we best elevate the four e-commerce products, and what does that look like? So.
I don't know. The chat's going so fast. I don't know if I'm missing questions or not.
That was much earlier in the chat that I saved that I would like to answer at some point, which is what's the best place for someone new to add-on development to start out? Is that something we can talk about now?
The floor is yours.
Okay. Well, I was just going to say, I was very scared of PHP back when I started with that Expression Engine website that I mentioned when I introduced myself. And that fear of PHP stuck with me because anytime I would try to do anything in the PHP code on that site, like I would get all these fatal errors and things because PHP is a programming language, which I didn't even know what those were at the time. And you do something wrong with your syntax and it blows up. So that can be daunting. But like once you actually once I sat down several years later and said, you know what, I'm going to teach myself this PHP thing, like it wasn't that bad. And so where I started was I was doing so much stuff in the templates, just way too much stuff in the templates that you shouldn't be doing in templates. And I was enabling PHP in templates and I was using the query module in templates. And so I finally just, sat down, I just set aside an entire day and I said, I'm going to figure out how to get a shell of an add-on going. Because I knew the add-ons file structure, right? Because I had been using a lot of add-ons and dropping them into the thing. And so can't be that hard, right? So I don't remember if I duplicated a very simple one, or I think I started with a plugin, and it took me a while to understand. But that's how I started. Was I needed a utility, and I created a plugin, and it was awful. But that's how I got started in add-on development. There may be better ways for other people, but that was my path, and I don't think it's a bad path. Like, you need to do something, so you do it in a simple plugin.
Well, I just ran an add-on workshop, and we have an overflow session of that next week. But one
Yes.
of the things that it really highlighted for me is that I think that this is something that a lot of people are hungry to know how to do, and I don't think there's a ton of good information out there. So I'm thinking that maybe it is incumbent on me to write some posts and or do some screencasts about it. I actually thought that I might even poke Ryan at Majingo because I wrote some stuff for him way back in the day. I suspect he is, kindly inclined towards me because I don't really want to host a bunch of screencasts myself. Honestly, blog posts are one thing. I'll write blog posts, but
Well, what about Expression Engine University?
oh yeah, and that's another possibility. So anyway, there seems to be enough appetite for this that I have in fact decided that I'm gonna see about writing some basic stuff.
I know everybody learns differently, and so this may or may not be helpful feedback, but I remember very specifically when I was trying to learn PHP and coming from I knew Expression Engine template language and HTML and CSS, and that was it. Coming from that perspective, I found the syntax very difficult, and there aren't a lot. There is almost nothing on syntax, and so I think that would be very helpful for beginners. Is when you see PHP throw this T_to doy noyakin whatever.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to pronounce those, but it's like, what does that even mean? It's a syntax error. You mess something up, and the parser can't parse the syntax. But I had no idea, and so I think.
Well, and it's even specific. It's more specific than that. It's you misplaced a colon.
Sure. Yeah. So I think pointing out, Adrian, when you do these, pointing out the very common syntax mistakes that we all still make, that would be, I think, very helpful. At least from my perspective, trying to remember what that was like.
I don't know about you, but like I'm a very kind of like hands-on learner, and so when I first started to get into developing add-ons, the first thing I did was grab like a crazy simple one, and just pull it apart and just try and see what was happening here and what had to go on. So like I think it was like a simple string manipulation one, and so I mean finding something like that and just kind of seeing how they're set up. There is in the docs like a really nice layout of how to create a plugin. I'm still a little bit lacking, but it's definitely a great place to start as well. So I'll also throw in like my the E add-on generator. I'll throw the link in the chat too. But if you're ever looking to scaffold something quick and just kind of, even if you just want to scaffold it and just get a feel for it, it's great to kind of pull it apart and see what's involved in each of the the different steps.
Yeah, so when I came from Expression Engine and I said I want to make a craft add-on, they had a scaffolder. I can't remember who his name is, but he had a scaffolding tool. And even though I was very experienced with PHP at that point, like that was super helpful. And so I think this add-on generator for, even though I didn't wind up using it, I just generated an add-on to kind of see what did it generate? What's the boilerplate? What do I need for an add-on? And I think that even just for that purpose alone, that your add-on generator, Doug, could be super useful in that way.
So, where'd the comment go? Question go? Gilbert asked, can we give some examples of when you would use a plugin file versus a module file? Or do you not use plugin files anymore?
That's kind of,
I don't use plugin files anymore.
yeah.
Because every time I do a plugin, it ends up turning into a module. Then I have to change, because the module requires an actual install if it's a record in a database. So
Right.
regardless how simple the plugin is, I just make it a module file.
So this is a legacy distinction, in my opinion, because plugins used to be that you just dropped them in and they would work, and then in Expression Engine 3, they now require installation. And at that point, it's like, what's the point? And other than that, like the actual so modules can do more, but everything that a plugin can do, a module can do, right? A module can do much more, but it does everything that a plugin can do. And so basically, there is no reason to just do a plugin anymore, in my opinion, and it's there for legacy purposes.
There also used to be nasty parse order issues that don't exist anymore.
Those probably went away when Pascal rewrote the parser.
Yes.
The only time,
Yeah, in EE2 there were parse order issues that could bite you.
So if you watched my talk, the only
Oh,
time
Matt,
we
I think
would.
you're on mute.
Oh, am I?
No, he's good.
You're good.
I can hear him.
Hello. Okay.
Sorry, I
Um,
saw your lips moving, but you weren't actually. Yeah, it was. There's some weird syncing.
All good. So if you did watch my talk, that's probably the only time I would use a plugin is if I'm pulling something into like a single tag, it's 4 lines of code or something really quick and dirty. A plugin is probably better than a module just because of the amount of setup you'd do. Although with the generator, that's not an issue. Did my video went out? Wow. I'm gonna just keep talking. But another thing with generating add-ons is going to be with EE6.1. The CLI is going to help a lot with that. So you're going to be able to just go into the CLI and create an add-on, say generate a extension, tell it what hooks you want, and it'll scaffold that out for you. So that might be a good starting point as well for people.
I think
Yeah, that'd be huge.
if I remember correctly, there's one other thing a plugin does that a module might not, and that is that you can use a plugin as a field output filter, right? So if you have a plugin that modifies data in a certain way, like it parses Markdown or something like that, then you can use that plugin as the field formatting type. I don't know if you can do that with a module.
You can do that with a module now.
Oh, okay. There you go then.
I did not know that.
That's the plugin.
I'm pretty sure there's an option for it in add-on setup.
Then that would be why. I just remember because we got burned by a site where it looked like they weren't using a plugin, like it wasn't used in any of their templates, and then and it wasn't updated for EE3.4 whatever. So we were like, oh, I guess they're not using that because it wasn't installed or anything. And then it turned out that some of the data in the channels field was being run through that plugin on output. Who knew?
I am pretty sure that these days you can use a module for that too. I am not 100% sure, so do not throw away all your plugins until you test this for yourself, however.
Just FYI, I'm getting information that we're going to just stay here for closing remarks since everybody's probably here anyway. And Brian, I don't know if you saw me in the chat. If you want to post something maybe on the stage with OBS that says that we're going to be here for the closing remarks, that would be great.
Yep.
I actually need to duck out. So thanks very much, everybody, for coming to this. Thanks for inviting me to be on it, Brian.
Thanks for coming.
It's been great to see you virtually, Adrian.
Yeah, I miss everybody. I really do.
Yeah.
So it's been good to see folks even a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Have a great one, folks. And look for my series of blog posts about add-on development. Bye-bye now.
See ya.
Bye.
I'm a little distracted.
Will we could probably go ahead and end the roundtable because the closing remarks are in 1 minute. Does that sound reasonable?
Yes.
All right. We'll all,
Thanks, everyone.
we'll all sit here on
great.
the
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye now.